Welcome back. In this video, I'm talking about procrastination. You know, when you're trying to get something done and yet it just doesn't get done, or a list full of things that just keep not happening. This topic came up for me because I have my accounting and tax spreadsheet template and course for small business owners, but I noticed some people find it extremely hard to get through the course, or even they can get through the course, but then to actually get their accounting records updated. They just can't seem to get it done. You know, that's something I totally understand, because when I started my business, I totally avoided doing my accounting and taxes. Like, really avoided it until the last minute, you know, because I have the knowledge and I do other people's correctly and on time. Even more so, I could justify that I could put it off to the last minute. What I learned with that, it was the same thing then with my online business. I was wanting to help people like you for a long time, but I was procrastinating in moving forward with it, because although we seem to be able to get things done when there's a real push, right? Like, I'm going to lose my job if I'm not there by 9 a.m. Well, we'll get there. But when we don't have that type of pressure, it can be extremely hard to not procrastinate. If we know we can get away with being a little late to work, right, then many people will probably start to be a little late. In this video, I'm going to share with you what I use to totally transform my financial issue, where I now genuinely enjoy looking at my records, and I'm able to have an online e-course business that's continuously growing and allowing me to help people like you. And so I'm going to share with you the fundamental tool, we could call it, or hack or thing that I do, that I want to share with you, that you can use to overcome procrastination. I'm not a psychologist expert, but when I'm looking back in my life, this is the thing that I'm zoning in on and doing more and more. And so I want to share it with you so that you can do the same. Because I'm now 100% confident that this is what is propelling me forward through some of these areas that I used to procrastinate on immensely. And I know how painful that can be, so that's why I wanted to share this with you in today's video. If you're new here, my name's Amanda, and you're watching The Business Finance Coach, where I simplify the tools of business to help you succeed, because I really believe that you should feel supported by these tools instead of overwhelmed or held back, as so often people do. So if that sounds like something you'd like to have in your life, consider subscribing while still watching this video. Now let's jump into procrastination. Procrastination is a really hotly debated issue. If you've noticed different stuff about it online, some people say, oh, it's good. It means that you're actually more creative in the end, because maybe you choose more enjoyable activities, which is why you put off activities. Other researchers, though, say that that's absolutely not true. The one thing I notice everyone agrees on is that a lot of people procrastinate, and that there's varying levels of procrastination. I imagine, if you're watching this video, that you have experienced procrastination the way I have experienced procrastination, which is I want to get some things done and I cannot do it. Like, they don't seem to get done. Maybe time is your thing. There's just not enough time. Or, it just feels so out of our control. Like, it's happening to us. Like, there's just no way around it. These things just can't get done. And so at some point we stop putting them on the list because it's not happening, right? You try and maybe you get a little bit of progress, but it's just overall a really big challenge. And it's very difficult to find help on this. All of the solutions I have looked into over the years, which I was always interested in anything on procrastination, I never found them to be helpful, because they typically focused on trying to control the end game, right? Like making a better schedule, like detailing everything out, or setting different goals and defining things more specifically. None of this helped me get stuff done, right? Like, I felt like it was trying to attack the problem at the end in the area where the trouble is, which is when we're actually doing the thing and it's not happening. And so why would I be able to add on all this other stuff to do? Often I felt like people who had been successful getting stuff done would look at what they did, put it into steps, and then say, hey, help you. But really, they didn't understand the problem because they hadn't experienced it. What is the problem? What is procrastination? My opinion, and I have not found this anywhere online, but my opinion is that procrastination is happening because we don't believe that we can have the outcome that doing those tasks that we're procrastinating on would give us. Deep, huh? This, of course, implies that you have an impact on your experience, on your reality. So the problem is we don't believe that we can have the things that those tasks would give us. It actually makes so much sense then why it would feel like we can't do it. And if we look at society, society doesn't know what makes some businesses successful and others not. If society could figure that out, investors would be throwing money at the guarantees and would never be losing money. The fact of the matter is we are not good slaves to ourselves. We can't say, do all this stuff. Even though I know it's possible for me to do that stuff, I don't necessarily won't do everything that I just want myself to do. So there's a very big difference between being a painter and painting because I love to paint and painting because I'm trying to make a painting to win a contest. If you think about what the intention is in both of those cases, it's a great example. When the painter just loves to paint, he's actually painting because he loves to paint and he believes he can have that experience. If he didn't believe he could have a good experience painting, he probably wouldn't paint. And if you're not an artist, you probably don't practice art, right? Because you're like, I'm not very good at that. Versus someone who's trying to paint a painting for a contest, if they don't believe that they can submit something good to that contest, they're going to procrastinate on doing that painting. So this is obviously saying that how you think and feel about things matters. Let's talk about the solution. My solution is quite simple. It's the opposite of the problem. We need to believe the outcome that the task we're procrastinating on, that we can actually get that outcome, that we can achieve that outcome. We need to practice that so that we can believe that we can achieve it. How do you do that? Well, you get clear. And my solution is all about writing in a notebook. Now, I guess this is called journaling these days, the new term, journaling. It's not keeping a diary. I'm going to give you a few specific questions to answer. And answering these questions, imagining the outcome is how you're going to build belief that you can achieve it. Because here's the thing, our brains and our emotional states don't actually know the difference between something that happened in the past, something that's happening right now, or something that hasn't happened at all, that's just in our heads, such as us envisioning our future. Why does that matter? Our thoughts, our attitude impacts the things we do and say and the opportunities we therefore find and the outcomes we therefore get. You know, our society kind of like doesn't even address this internal experience, nor do we address like our emotional experience, which is constant, but we have power over it. But our society acts like our emotions are something that happens to us. We have no control over those. That's not something I believe, because in this moment, I can only think one thought, right? I can't really think more than one thought at the same time. And I do have some power some of the time over choosing that thought. Sometimes you don't have any power. You're super mad or you're super sad or whatever. But other times you do have power when things ease down to a neutral state. Then you have power and then you can make a choice. So when we say we only use 5% of our brain, I believe that most of what we're doing is just on autopilot and that we're habitual. And so every day, for a portion of the thinking of that day, we can intentionally choose some thoughts. We could read something, Or we could ask ourselves some questions and we could imagine the outcome of what we are trying to achieve in our life. Now, over time, you're going to develop your outcome. So, one thing I've tried to remember is to always go to the biggest outcome that you desire. So, don't hold back. Like, write the deepest thing that you want to write. What do I want to create in the world? Who am I? What am I here to do? What do I want to be known for? What's my biggest dream? Start there. If what you're writing doesn't scare you a little bit, then you're probably not going deep enough. The reason writing works is because when we think, and a lot of times people will tell me, Amanda, I answer questions like that in my head, same thing. The reason it is never the same thing is because in our head, we have all of these thoughts. We have 10,000 thoughts going in our head a day. When we write, we can feel into a different place and we can literally get one word. What would my business look like if I truly had no boundaries? Like, really, if you ask yourself a question like that, you only need one word. I would, and then you get a word and you write it down. And it's focusing your attention into a deeper place than you can typically find with your head, because we're always going, you'll start judging yourself and before you get the sentence finished. That's why writing is so important. So to be able to start to believe this outcome, you want to imagine it every day. I know sometimes people will say, oh yeah, I wrote stuff down and then it happened. Amazing, cool. But if you really want to transform things and you don't want to rely on luck, then this is something to do every day, because what you write down for where you're going, it will develop. It's gonna be written different every day, and you're gonna get clearer and clearer and more familiar with the outcome that you're going for. And so once you write the general outcome and then just imagine that you've achieved it. Now ask yourself and answer the questions. What would I believe? What would I feel? What would I think? And then what would I do? Or what would my routine be? How would I act? Who would be around? Like, ask yourself other questions like that, but really focus in on the what would I believe now that this is actually happening right now, and take a moment and imagine, okay, I'm there. What would I believe? What would I feel? What would I think? Focus on those emotional ones first before you get into the actions, because I found personally I could get kind of like just doing my to-do list, and that is not the point. The point is to genuinely feel those emotions, because when we haven't felt them, we literally can't feel them. And so that's why we're procrastinating, because we're not really taking into account the entirety of how we live and operate and how we create new things in our lives. So by embodying and practicing those emotional states, it's like the actions can just start to happen. So when I'm procrastinating, I just stop and I'll focus on using writing, and that's my way of things, just kind of start happening. I've been embodying that and then it's happening. And so the best thing I can recommend is to test it out. And I certainly didn't believe that this was going to work at first, but I did get desperate in some areas. And so I tried it, and that's how I've started to use it more and more and more, and why I'm sharing it with you here today. So I have a lot more questions that I ask myself. Here are a few bonus ones. Why would I not create this? What do I need to let go of right now? Who do I need to be? What do I need to learn? And that's all for now. So I'd love to hear what you think. What are you procrastinating with? I'd love to hear more in the comments below this video. Also in the description, I have information about my programs, free templates, free resources, and paid programs and coaching. So if you're interested, I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like to let YouTube know. Share it with someone who might need it. Check out any of the other videos which should be around me that you might be interested in, and I'll see you next time. Bye.